My name is Christina McClellan, and I'm a woman at
I'm the
Iowa.
Chief Curator at the University of Iowa
Maren,
Museum of Art, and I'm a woman at Iowa.
Gigi Durham. I'm an associate professor in the School of Journalism, and I'm a woman at Iowa.
Welcome to the third season of Women at Iowa, which explores the experience, work, and history of the amazing women on the University of Iowa campus. I am your host, Jessica Danca, and today we have Sonatina Fernandes, who is the clerk of the University Benefits Office. Thank you for being with us today. I'm very excited. All right. So, what is your favorite part of being in the University Benefits Office?
I think it makes me feel that I'm part of a larger community and we all have a common goal. The main goal is taking care of our students, and I feel that in some small way I do contribute to that. It's a wonderful place to work. I have great co-workers, but overall it just gives me a feeling of belonging.
And after working here for a long time, what is something that you're most proud of while working here?
It may seem like a small thing, but I did take part in a program that you get to know a student of foreign origin, and you get, mainly it was for conversation, to spend an afternoon a week just conversing so they would get used to speaking English. And it was for the first time that I felt I was like an insider helping an outsider, and it gave me a really good feeling because I've been in their shoes and I know what it is like to not feel like you quite belong. And I really do feel like I belong now in Iowa, so it gave me a good feeling to be part of that program.
What were some of the challenges that you had when you first came to Iowa and started working here?
I don't think there were a lot of challenges. Perhaps the hardest one was being away from family and being away from things that were fairly familiar. But with time, Iowa is a very friendly place, and not having a language barrier helps. So it's easier to communicate with people, and if you're willing to take an extra step, everyone's willing to help out. So I think they want a lot of challenges.
Well, switching gears, you lived in Uganda until you were 10.
That's right.
What was living in Uganda like for you?
I think I had a wonderful, wonderful childhood. I grew up with parents who were willing to just let me be a child. I have 3 older brothers. My father was a banker, my mother was a teacher, but they allowed us to just be children. And there might have been a lot of things that we were totally unaware of. The political unrest or any financial problems, we were totally oblivious to all that. And so I had a wonderful childhood. I just grew up being a child and enjoying, growing up with 3 older brothers, getting into a lot of trouble, but overall it was wonderful, really wonderful. And when times were difficult, we were sheltered from a lot of the things that happened. And we were, perhaps if we were to leave or to take a trip, we were told just a short time before it actually happened, we were told we were going somewhere. So we didn't have the anxiety that a lot of children today have because they know so much more.
Well, when you moved to Goa because Idi Amin took over Uganda.
That's right.
What was the move like for you? Like, you went with your mother and your father stayed behind and your brothers were in boarding school.
That's right.
What was it like? I mean, was it scary?
Scary is a good word because I think I was scared in many ways. I didn't feel I was going home. I felt I was leaving home. So it was a transition. When you're 10 years old, you don't want to be, just taken up away from things that are familiar to you. So in some ways, it was a little difficult. Going to India when I was 10, I think the hardest part was learning an Indian language. it was essential in school for you to know an Indian language, so I had to really rev that up while the other kids were doing appreciation of poetry in Hindi. I was learning to form the alphabet. But with time, it all fell into place, and I soon learned to just love India and Goa especially. Life was very laid back. We lived close to the beach and went swimming whenever we wanted to, so it was wonderful. Yeah.
What was your relationship like with your mother and father?
I was extremely close to my mother because I spent a lot of time with her, and I think she influenced my life a great deal. She was a strong-willed woman, very strong-willed. She was a good teacher because I know that a lot of students had a lot of respect for her. She gave me a lot of confidence in who I am, to be comfortable in who I am. And I think she was very accepting of people, and that transferred on to me. I learned to accept people for who they are and that everybody has something to offer, and I think I really attribute that to her.
Well, learning a new language is probably hard. Can't even imagine. How many languages do you actually speak right now?
I'll honestly say I can speak 2 languages fluently. I can get by with a regional language in India. It's called Konkani, but I'm not very fluent in it. I could get by probably in the marketplace, but that's about it.
Which one was the hardest to learn?
I thought Hindi was hard only because it was very unfamiliar to me. I had not heard a lot of Hindi growing up. But when I was in India, I had a wonderful Hindi teacher in school, and a little bit of advice that she gave my mother. She said, let her go to see Indian films, which sounds odd, but she just wanted the sounds of the words to become familiar to me, and it helped a great deal. I started going to Indian films and watching a lot of Indian films, and then the sounds became familiar. The words started to make sense. And then with what I was learning in school, I had to have a tutor, a private tutor, to teach me how to form the alphabet. But eventually I did catch up with the rest. It took a while, but I got there.
Wow, that's amazing. I can't even imagine what it would be like to learn a completely new language at the age of 10 either.
Yeah.
So you went to school at the convent.
Yes.
What were some of the great memories you had of friends and teachers?
It was called Our Lady of the Rosary High School, and it was, the location was wonderful. It was located on a side of a cliff and overlooked the ocean. I have good memories of one of my teachers. Her name was Miss Meena. She took us out on the rocks alongside the school, and that's where we'd have English lessons. We'd just sit out there and read, from Charles Dickens or whatever, but it was wonderful to be outside. And I think the teachers I had were very good. They were very, trying to think of anything else, but perhaps one other thing I could share is a young girl that I met at school. We were 10 years old, and she had moved from North India to Goa, and we became friends, and we're still friends today. It's been a long friendship, that's all I'll say. But she's one of the reasons I moved to Iowa, because her husband was here at the University of Iowa, and she was the reason I moved here. So I think one of the greatest gifts I got from that school was meeting my friend Apsara.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you started off with telemarketing here in the United States, and you did really enjoy it. And then you became a travel agent again here for 16 or 14 years.
Yes.
Sorry. What made you decide to come to the University of Iowa and actually work here?
I really, really enjoyed being a travel agent, and as you can tell, I've been one for a long time. But I realized that one of the aspects that drew me to being a travel agent was being helpful to people. I liked that. And as the travel industry had begun to change, they no longer needed travel agents as much. And so I looked for other avenues that I could still use what I had and yet enjoy what I was going to do with my life. And the university seemed the perfect fit, especially the benefits office, because I get the chance to interact with people. I feel I'm helping them. I feel I'm contributing to the bigger picture. So it's wonderful to be there. Yeah.
What are some of the other things that you're involved in at Iowa?
I do belong to a church, and it plays a big role in my life. I go to Parkview, and so I'm very involved with the church and my church family. I couldn't say other things except with my family. I spend a lot of time with my husband and my daughter, and when you have a teenage daughter, your life seems to get more involved with whatever she has to do. So I have to put a lot of things on hold for now.
Yes, my mother says that kind of stuff a
Sure.
lot. How has your experience as a woman influenced you throughout your life and throughout all the places that you've been?
I think women in general have played a very important role in my life. Like I said, biggest influence I had was my mother. She was strong-willed and an articulate woman. She read a lot, and through her I think I developed as a child and to a teenager. But then after that, there were always women in my life who influenced me and guided me, teachers, friends. But one thing I have realized, that no matter where I've lived in the world, we women really want the same things. We're essentially, we do look for the same things. We do look for recognition and love, but whether we wear a sari or a burqa or jeans, there is a strength, an inner strength that keeps us going. I mean, I can still remember a woman who used to come and work in our household in India. Having a servant is a very common place. You don't have to be wealthy to have a servant. But she was amazing because she would come to our home and work so hard. And I was probably 12 or 13 years old, and then she would invite me back to her home in the evening. And my mother would say, just let her be, give her her own space. But she would have me over to her home, and she lived in a very modest, almost a hut, but she would then have her baby to take care of and would be entertaining me and feeding me, and I think of the strength that she had as a woman because she took care of her family, she took care of us, and she provided for her family, and yet anyone would think she was so simple and unassuming, but here she had all this inner strength that always stayed with me.
So when you're not working, what are some of the things that you like to do on your free time?
I love to read. Reading plays a big role in my life. Again, another influence from my mother. I have good friends in Iowa. I've made some good friends. It's made up for the fact that we don't have family around. I've been blessed with a lot of good friendships, so socializing is a big part of my life. And like I said, my family, my husband, my daughter, they mean everything to me, and I have a wonderful dog who also demands my time. So.
On a final note, what would be a book that you would recommend to Iowa students?
The Bible influences my life every single day. I couldn't go a day without reading that. So I would say the Bible, whichever way you want to take it. As far as authors go, there's an author, Bharati Mukherjee. I'm sure she's very well known in Iowa. But I love her writing because it touches a chord with me. She's of Indian origin, but is so influenced in many ways by the United States. So I love her work. If anyone can get a hold of her books, they're wonderful. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. That was an incredible story. I was completely intrigued. You've had an amazing life.
Thank you, Jessica.